This week I've been in New York City. Among other things, I attended James Suckling's Great Wines of the World. This event took place over 2 different days, and I attended both sessions as a member of the wine media. In all, there were around 500 different wines that were being poured, all of which scored at least 92 points. 13 of these wines even received perfect 100-point scores.
This is the reality. It's all about sharing wine together, sharing a passion for something that's amazing, that takes us every time we taste the wine.
There was a diverse selection of wines, as there were wines from 18 different countries and 55 different wine regions. Over the course of 2 days, including some of the related after-parties, I tasted around 200 different wines. So in this video, I'm going to reveal some of my favorites. I could do a video with all perfect 100-point score wines, but that wouldn't be very interesting, and you could just look those up for yourself. In addition, some of my favorite wines that I've talked about recently on this channel were being poured as well, so I'm not going to repeat the discussion about those wines in this video. Instead, I've come up with a diverse and interesting group of wines that I thought were standouts. I'm a huge fan of wines from the northern Rhone region of France, and while there weren't that many Rhone wines at the James Suckling Great Wines of the World, there was definitely some outstanding quality. Few wines carry as much historical weight and grandeur as La Chapelle from Domaine de la Chapelle. So this outstanding Hermitage was definitely one of my favorite wines of the tasting. This wine received a massive 99-point score from James Suckling. Hermitage has to be 100% Syrah, and this wine was a Syrah masterclass with explosive dark fruit and flavors and aromas that included black pepper, olive, violets, mixed herbs, and that unmistakable granite quality that you often find with Hermitage. There was a savory, almost ferrous edge to this wine that gave it some impressive complexity, and the finish was extremely long. I will warn you, however, that this is a wine that will definitely benefit from some extended aging in your cellar. It's definitely not a wine that you'll want to pop open in the near term. So if you're impatient and want to enjoy one of these soon, you'll definitely want to shop around for a back vintage. Of course, there's always a good turnout from Italian wineries at James Suckling's events, and in my opinion, Brunello had absolutely one of the very strongest showings. Valdicava is one of my favorite producers of Brunello Montalcino, and they brought some amazing wines with them this year. They had 2 different wines from the epic 2019 vintage that were pretty special, and both of which received 100-point scores. It's a rare treat to be able to taste these wines, as they don't make them every vintage, and even when they produce them, they make them in fairly limited quantities. Specifically, we're talking about the 2019 Valdicava Madonna del Piano and the Vigna Montasoli. These wines are certainly very young, but it was a treat to get an early read on them, as they already have impressive purity of fruit. They're certainly built to last and will cruise in your cellar for a couple decades or more. Valdicava also brought the 2020 Brunello di Montalcino, and last week I had the opportunity to attend a Valdicava dinner where I had the 2007, 2013, and 2016 vintages. The 2016 vintage is in a tremendous place right now. I also thought that the 2013 is one that's appropriate to open now, so if you have that in your cellar, you might give it a try. The 2020 will definitely benefit from some additional time in your cellar, but it's already an extremely enjoyable wine. Another thing I've learned over the last couple of weeks is that lamb shank makes an incredible pairing with younger Brunello di Montalcino. The fat from the lamb shank helps to offset the tannins of the younger Brunello, and the wine also has ample acidity that helps to cut through the fat of the meat. Just an absolutely magical match. So if you're ever opening a Brunello that's a little bit on the younger side, you might try pairing it with lamb shank. Run by brothers Carlo and Dante Mondavi, RAEN has rapidly become one of the top producers of California Pinot Noir and Chardonnay from the Sonoma coast. If the Mondavi name sounds familiar, it's because Carlo and Dante Mondavi are Tim Mondavi's sons and Robert Mondavi's nephews. Carlo Mondavi was there in person to pour 2 of the outstanding RAEN wines from the 2023 vintage, a Pinot Noir and a Chardonnay. The Pinot Noir received an impressive 99-point score from James Suckling. This wine comes from a 4.8-acre monopole. So RAEN controls this vineyard entirely, and it's the only producer that will make a wine from this fruit. This is the 2023 RAEN Fort Ross Seaview Seafield Vineyard Sonoma Coast Pinot Noir. To make this wine, RAEN uses 100% whole cluster fermentation and also ferments using native yeast. There's no fining for this wine. This is a mineral-driven wine, and flavors and aromas included wild strawberry, raspberry, forest floor, and rose petals. This wine was extremely elegant with a long, complex finish. As much as I enjoyed RAEN's Pinot Noir, I would give a slight edge to their outstanding Chardonnay that received a 100-point score from James Suckling, namely the 2023 RAEN Fort Ross Seaview Charles Ranch Sonoma Coast Chardonnay. The fruit for this wine comes from the Charles Ranch Vineyard, which is located extremely close to the very cold Pacific Ocean, just 2 miles away. This vineyard has extremely rocky soils and is located at 1,100 feet above sea level. Better still, there's extremely old vines for this area. The vines average an impressive 40 years of age, which is extraordinarily old for Sonoma Coast Chardonnay. The other thing I really appreciate about this wine is that it has extremely restrained alcohol by volume, only around 12.5%. Compared to some other highly acclaimed Sonoma Coast Chardonnay, this is extraordinarily low, as some of those others can get up in the 15 to even 16% range, which is just extremely high for me. This wine featured impressive purity of fruit. It was textured and elegant. There were flavors and aromas of lemon, peach, hazelnut, sea salt, and flint. Really an impressive wine. One of the things I like best about the James Suckling Great Wines of the World event is that oftentimes either a winemaker or an owner will be there to help present the wines. And so it was a real honor to meet Carlo Ferrini, who's one of the most legendary winemakers in all of Italy. Carlo's made wine for the likes of Soldera, Casanova de Nere, and many others. Along with his daughter, Carlo Ferrini also owns a winery that's called Giodo. He makes Brunello de Montalcino, and he also makes some excellent wines from Sicily. Carlo Ferrini owns Giodo along with his daughter, who was also present, and over the course of 2 evenings, they presented 3 different wines. They had both the 2019 and 2020 Brunello de Montalcino, and they also had a Nerello Mascalese from Sicily. While the 2019 Brunello de Montalcino received 99 points, I actually preferred the 2020 vintage. I thought that the 2019 was a little bit pruny and raisiny, perhaps due to some warm conditions that year, whereas the 2020 had a little bit more freshness, and it was actually in a pretty good place, although certainly it had some grippy tannins yet that will be resolved over time. Giodo's Nerello Mascalese was excellent. This wine received a 96-point score, and it's definitely one worth considering if you haven't tried it yet. This wine had flavors and aromas of raspberries, cherries, floral notes, and sort of a lava quality that I found to be intriguing. It had ample acidity and freshness. The tannins were still a little bit grippy, so this is one that will benefit from some additional years in the cellar, but it's definitely one that you can enjoy now with a healthy decant. The next of my favorite wines from James Suckling's Great Wines of the World tasting comes from the most southerly wine region in the entire world. The climate there is extreme and very inhospitable for grape growing. Specifically, there's bitterly cold temperatures, extraordinarily low rainfall, and also extreme sunlight. I first tried this producer's wines for the first time when I was in Buenos Aires a few years ago, and I was extremely impressed and have kept an eye out for them ever since. So I was extremely excited to see the Otronia booth, and my favorite wine that they were pouring that night was the 2021 Otronia Patagonia Chardonnay. There were flavors and aromas that included lemon, peach, crushed rock, and floral notes. There was impressive tension and acidity in this wine, and a long, complex finish. Really an intriguing wine that I encourage you to try if you can track one down. I do understand, however, that it's getting very difficult to locate even in Argentina, as it's in incredibly high demand, especially given the quantity that is produced. Each day before I go to the James Suckling tasting, I take a look at the wines that are going to be poured, and I prioritize at least 25 or 30 wines that I want to make sure that I taste early in the night before they run out. On day 2, I definitely prioritize the wines of Weingut Martin Wassmer. Martin Wassmer is a winery that traces its roots back to 1997. It's located in Baden and produces outstanding Pinot Noir and Chardonnay that's inspired by Burgundy. In the vineyard, they use high-density planting techniques and they have low yields. They also use some extremely high-quality Burgundy barrels for their oak maturation program. Martin Wassmer poured both a Chardonnay and a Pinot Noir, both of which received impressive 96-point scores from James Suckling, and I thought these scores were extremely fair and well-deserved. The fruit for both of these wines comes from the same vineyard, Duttinger-Kasselberg. They just have different plots in different areas that are better suited to Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, respectively. I did some searching, and it looks like these wines are selling for around $80 to $85 per bottle. They offer extremely high quality, and I would encourage you to give them a try if you're able to track them down. If you're interested in wine recommendations, wine collecting strategies, and learning more about wine, please do subscribe to my channel. I've been collecting wine for more than 15 years and also have a level 4 diploma from the WSET. So I have both formal certification as well as substantial practical knowledge from the School of Hard Knocks. There were lots of world-class Chilean wines at this year's Great Wines of the World, including Don Melchor, Senya, Almaviva, Cloa Palta, and more. But my favorite Chilean wine was definitely the 2021 Vigna Vic. This impressive wine received a double 100-point score. Despite the fact that it was started only around 20 years ago, Vigna Vic has already become a world-class producer of wines, thanks in large part to talented winemaker Christian Vallejo. Christian learned how to make wine in Bordeaux at wineries such as Chateau Margaux, and he does an excellent job. The 2021 Vigna Vic is 77% Cabernet Franc and 23% Cabernet Sauvignon. Vigna Vic's Cabernet Franc thrives in the conditions that exist in Chapelle because there's a gap in the mountains that allows cool coastal breezes to come through. As a result, Vigna Vic's vineyards are about 3 degrees Celsius cooler than nearby Apalta, which is only about 20 minutes away as the crow flies. The 2021 Vic is a seamless wine that's extraordinarily elegant and refined. Flavors and aromas include blackberry, black cherry, violets, tobacco, cedar, and mixed spice. The 2021 Vigna Vic, despite its youth, is already incredibly elegant and enjoyable. It will only get better over the next 5 to 7 years. I've been singing the praises of Saint-Emilion-based Belair Menage early and often on this channel, so I think most of my viewers have the point by now, and so I'm not going to discuss the excellent 2019 vintage that was poured at the James Suckling tasting. Instead, I want to highlight a producer that's very much under the radar. This producer has been making wines of consistently high quality for a number of years now, yet still doesn't get the attention that I feel it deserves. This producer is a fourth growth in the 1855 classification of Bordeaux, and it's located in Saint-Julien, namely Chateau Saint-Pierre. Chateau Saint-Pierre was pouring both the 2016 and the 2019 vintages at the James Suckling event. Each of these vintages received a 96-point score from James Suckling, and I was extremely impressed with both vintages. In my opinion, the 2016 vintage has just entered its peak drinking window. It should stay there for another 10 years or so, but it was extremely impressive. If you open this one soon, I would probably give it 45 minutes to an hour's worth of air. The 2019 offered equally impressive quality. It is just a bit younger, and so I think this one still has room to improve. So if you have it in your cellar, or if you purchase one, I would make sure that you give it another 2 to 3 years or so before you start enjoying it. But you really can't go wrong with either of these wines from Saint-Pierre. Damilano is a fantastic producer of Barolo that's also one of the major landowners in the prestigious Canubi MGA. Canubi is a world-class vineyard that has gentle south and southeast facing slopes with excellent sun exposure and drainage. It has perfect conditions for producing world-class Nebbiolo. Canubi tends to be one of my favorite expressions of Barolo because even in their youth, their wines are extremely expressive aromatically, and they're also a little bit more soft and approachable than a number of the other Barolo crus, even when the wines are fairly young. So as soon as I entered the tasting, I went straight to Damilano table and tried the outstanding 2017 Damilano Riserva 1752 Barolo. This wine received an impressive 98-point score from James Suckling, despite the fact that the 2017 vintage is not the strongest vintage in Barolo. Nevertheless, this wine was incredible. This wine had impressive depth in concentration. It was elegant yet powerful. Flavors and aromas included black cherry, tar, anise, roses, and a smoky minerality. Really an impressive wine. But if you'd like to get a feel for the Damilano style without paying up for the 1752 Riserva, you can definitely try the other wine that Damilano was pouring that night, namely the 2019 Canubi Barolo. This impressive wine received a 95-point score and is from a very strong vintage in Barolo. So it'll give you a lot of the quality that you'll find in the 1752 Riserva, but at a small fraction of the price. There were a number of excellent wines from Napa Valley being poured on both evenings of the James Suckling Great Wines of the World event. For example, I think that the 2021 Lithology Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon was particularly expressive that evening. However, I've recently done at least 2 extended videos on Napa Valley wines, and pretty much all the wines that were being poured on both evenings at the James Suckling tasting were wines that I considered in context during my 8 days of tasting earlier this year in Napa Valley. For that reason, I'm going to stand on the recommendations for Napa Valley wines that are contained in those 2 recent videos. And if you'd like to see them, I'll be sure to link them in the description below. If you'd like to hear my thoughts regarding James Suckling's Top 100 list, please be sure to check out this video that's linked above.